So one of your U.S. senators is pushing to get abortion rights into the U.S. Constitution by saying an amendment that's been debated for a long time has already passed. U.S. Senator Kirsten Gillibrand announcing a resolution has been filed in the Senate and the House that, if passed, would essentially tell the National Archivist to make the Equal Rights Amendment the latest addition to the Constitution, the 28th Amendment. It would guarantee sex equality and protect reproductive rights. Well, as you may know, to amend the Constitution, 3/4 of the states have to ratify an amendment. The question is, has that happened? Gillibrand argues it has.
At a time when half of Americans in this country do not have equal protection under the law and our rights are being systemically attacked, we need an equal rights amendment now more than ever. With this resolution, we affirm our right to a constitutional equality and proclaim our God-given right to true equality.
So the resolution would need to get 60 votes to overcome a Republican filibuster in the Senate. It would also have to pass in the Republican House. Then it would have court challenges. Joining us live right now to help make sense of all this is constitutional expert and Two on Your Side legal analyst Paul Cambria. All right, Paul, this is a complicated one. There's a lot of history here. Help us understand how Gillibrand says this has already been ratified by enough states, whereas people on the other side say no, it hasn't.
Well, this amendment was first proposed in 1923, but it was passed by Congress in 72. That took 2/3 of each house to pass it. But that's not the end of the story. It then has to be ratified by 3/4 of the states, which would be 38 states. Congress set a deadline, first of 7 years for the ratification. Then they expanded it to 10 years. And in that time, they only had 35 states. Since that deadline, though, 5 other states joined, but some other states tried to rescind. It still has 38 votes, but the question is, did the time limit count? The time limit, and also could they rescind? And it's kind of interesting because the history of the Supreme Court reviewing these things really sort of lets it be in Congress's hands. There really weren't any limitations on the ratification process. I mean, the 27th Amendment wasn't ratified until 203 years after it was passed. So now what's saying, Senator Gillibrand and so on are saying, we have the 38 votes. That's all it takes. The time limits are irrelevant. And the Supreme Court only said as long as it's reasonable and contemporaneous. We already have the 27th Amendment at 203 years. And so we've met all the qualifications and we have the votes. And it is, in fact, the 28th Amendment. That's their position. It'll then go to the Supreme Court, I'm sure, and eventually be something that probably Congress will decide. And they'll say the time limit's irrelevant. Look at the 27th Amendment's 200 years. And so it'll be another amendment.
So, Paul, if, and this is a big if, highly unlikely, but let's say the Senate, you got to get 60 votes, right? Let's say the Senate passes this resolution saying, let's move forward with the fact that this got enough states and it should become an amendment. And then it also passed in the House, which, again, probably not going to happen. If it did that and it made its way to the Supreme Court, do you think the court would look and say, all right, Congress has weighed in on this. We give deference to Congress when it comes to doing constitutional amendments. Do you think the Supreme Court would uphold this sort of new approach to trying to get this done?
It's interesting because of the new conservative Supreme Court. But again, the conservative Supreme Court may say every branch of the government stands on its own. The history of the Supreme Court is to defer to Congress and to say this is really a political issue. And if that history holds true, the court will say, Congress, you passed it. You remove the time limit. You're not recognizing the rescinding states, and this is the 28th Amendment.
A lot of controversy with this one, no doubt. Paul, I've only got 30 seconds left. What do you see happening next with this and playing
Well, I think next it goes to the courts, and then after the courts, it goes to Congress. I think the courts will punt and send it to Congress, and Congress then will make a political decision, and that'll be it.
All right, Buffalo attorney, constitutional expert, and 2 on Your Side legal analyst Paul Cambria. Paul, always a pleasure. Thank you, sir.